For more than 2 decades now, you've heard me say that the release is the most important part of the golf swing. The release is the golf swing. Why? Because the release both adds speed and squares the face. There's nothing else to the golf swing. If you add a lot of speed and it squares the face as a byproduct of that, you've got a golf swing. And as I've worked through these trail side release patterns, one of the things that's become very interesting to me is that as you're releasing the club, when really what you're doing is just understanding how to release your wrists in a specific way. And it made sense to me that if I was going to release the club that way, like the goats, that I would want to figure out what is the fastest, most efficient way to get the wrist to work in the golf swing that both produces epic amount of speed while also naturally squaring the face. That's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. Now, there is definitely more than one way to release the golf club and still play great golf. What we're really going to focus on is what the goats did in their swings. And the goats were great at being very efficient with their wrist to get maximum speed. I believe that the simplest way of thinking about this is from Homer Kelly's idea of an endless conveyor belt. It is the fastest way to feel the club moving from this side of the ball to that side of the ball with efficiency. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do it. You can turn your shoulders as fast as you want. You can roll your arms over as fast as you want. I think of it as releasing my wrists as fast as I can. That's all I really care about. And so if you want to understand why my swing looks so slow but produces so much speed and so efficiently squares the club face into the ball, listen to what I'm going to show you in these next few minutes, because it's going to help you understand a concept that will change the way that you think about the golf swing forever. So I have my trusty chainsaw here, and I have glued 2 pieces of a broom onto the chain. And what this represents is this wonderful idea that Homer Kelly came up with of this endless conveyor belt. And this is a perfect illustration of that because the chainsaw works in exactly the same way. So what do you think will happen when this first bristle of the broom gets to the end here and it has to move around this tighter radius? This is still an arc. The bar of the chain has an arc to it. But when they're on this part of the bar, they're moving at basically a constant rate to each other. So the way to think about this too, just to be clear, is that imagine that this part is the grip of the club and this is the head of the club. And this is the shaft, of course. So this is very, very similar, at least in terms of creating a wonderful feel and visual for the golf swing to understand how to get real speed, is that as this bristle approaches the end, this part has to go much faster to keep up with this part because it's going around this tighter radius. And this is what I believe that Homer Kelly was trying to illustrate with that visual, is that if you understand how to move your hands correctly, that you can create this very same effect. So let's take a look at this and what it actually looks like in real life. I'm going to play this through at speed, at normal speed first, and let you take a look at it and see what you see with the naked eye. It's almost kind of a flash, wasn't it? Let's do it one more time. You can see just how radically fast it accelerates as it gets onto this curved arc. The radius that it has to take, you'll actually watch what's cool. This is very similar to a golf swing, because watch how the bristle from the broom stresses, it bends. Look at this, it's just on the precipice of going on this curve. You can see this one's perfectly straight, but this one's starting to bend. And if we go back just a couple frames, you can see that it was pretty straight. And then right as it starts to accelerate and the bristle starts to feel that acceleration, the tip's still left behind, but this part's hauling butt because it's starting to go around this curved arc. And now you can see the stress. You could imagine this is the stress on the shaft in the golf swing. And now you can see it's really, really curved. It blurs on. This is shot at 240 frames per second. It's still blurred it out. And then you'll see as it reaches, it's still very curved. As it reaches the halfway point, that's when it's going to actually deflect the other way. Watch what happens next. You'll see it bend back toward, now it's going the other way. It's that energy that was stored up as it was bent backwards has now been released as it reaches past this halfway point on the bar, and now it flings through and it accelerates, and then it goes back to looking like it's moving kind of slow again. But then here comes its brother coming behind, and then all of a sudden it's going to go whoosh, and then it has to fly around to keep up
because the chain is moving at a constant rate of speed. This is the beauty of what Homer Kelly was trying to describe when he had this visual of this endless conveyor belt. What's amazing is that you can actually not only feel this in your golf swing, but you can actually accelerate it even more when you think about it in terms of 3D that the golf swing is actually happening in.
So seeing that with the chainsaw is helpful, but now let's look at it with a golf club and start to get a little bit better picture of what's happening. So now imagine I'm on a conveyor belt and the golf club is going to work around the pulley on the end, or the roller on the end of the conveyor belt. So it's coming in straight, it's square, and then as soon as it hooks up with the end, whew, because that belt is moving at a constant rate, as soon as it has to go around the end, it has to accelerate dramatically. What a great concept and what a great feeling of the golf swing if you can get that free acceleration by using physics to your advantage like Mr. Kelly was talking about. But the golf swing is happening not just in 2 dimensions like I'm doing here. This is all just happening on one plane of motion. The golf swing's happening in 3. So not only can we have this motion, we can actually have more of it and multiply that force by using a compound surface. The golf swing is not happening just in 1 dimension or 2 dimensions where it's just moving on this plane around the hemisphere of the ball. It's obviously a much more compound shape than that, and the grooves on this ball are actually a wonderful example of what you want to feel in the release of the golf club. So if this club, instead of following the equator around the ball, what if it followed this curve on this compound curved surface? So now the club, instead of taking a wide pathway to get over here, is taking a shortcut. And as the club begins to release and work on this arc, that is the feeling of a release of the golf club. Getting your hands to work correctly so that the club doesn't have to take this straight line path. It is moving in 3 dimensions, and when you understand how to move your wrists to work with this idea of creating a compound curve, that is how you get speed. That's why when you look at my swing, it looks kind of slow, but obviously I swing over 120 miles an hour with my driver, as I've shown. But it looks slow because my body isn't moving fast. This is moving fast. This is all I care about. This little sweet spot of the golf club is the only thing that matters. And if you move this fast, which is done by the release, then that's all that matters in your golf swing. The release does 2 things for you. It squares the face and adds speed. What else matters? Nothing else matters in the golf swing. If the club is moving fast with a square face, you're going to hit the ball well. And the whole key to this is understanding the feeling of how to create this complex, compound curved surface by just using your wrists. And that's what I'm going to show you, exactly how to move your wrists correctly, just like the goats. When you see Bobby Jones snap that club through impact, you watch Tiger's hands turn over. The feeling of how to do this is incredibly simple, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you in the member video. So click the link down in the description below if you've never understood the release. If you want to understand once and for all what your hands and wrists are supposed to do, where you're supposed to feel it in your hands, what hand's supposed to do what, how much tension should you have, how do you release them, that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video.